Hello, and welcome to Quilt Moxie, the podcast, where Quilt Moxie meets Craftsy.com, an online community dedicated to providing the best education and resources for crafters. Join me, Ariana, your host, and come along on my video journey where I participate in the Craftsy online classes and community. Meet up with us online at quiltmoxie.com or at your favorite hangout, Craftsy, Ravelry, Facebook, Twitter. Check the credits at the end of the show for more. You can also subscribe to our mailing list to get your next and every episode with show notes delivered directly to your email as soon as the episode is available. It's as simple as dropping your email address and checking Receive Podcast by email. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 17. Today, in the gallery, Yazzii, and she's going to Houston. We'll be joining Lucy Neatby for another Craftsy class, My First Socks. And I'll talk about my experience with knit-alongs and wrap it up with a small demo. Let's get started in the gallery. We're in the gallery with the brand new, just about to be launched product from Yazzii.com. Her 2-in-1 block storage organizer, which she will be launching at the Houston International Quilt Market and Festival. This is an amazing product. Run, don't wait, run to your local quilt shop. Get them to bring it in from Yazzii before she even gets to Houston. Put your order in now. Go to her website. You need this organizer. It's just phenomenal. I have to thank Joyce of Aussie Yarning Podcast who referred me to her, or her to me, so that I was the lucky person that got to try it out. I brought this amazing bag to both of my quilt guilds here in Quebec. I belong to a French guild and an English guild. And one of the ladies says, "Oh my God, I need to have this. And you need to have this." This organizer, I'm going to stand up just so you can see how nicely it fits on your body. It is light, which is so important because as a quilter, we're constantly carrying heavy bags. It is light, and when you're carrying it on your side, it does not drag on the floor, which is so important. It is well made. It is custom made. So the quality, if you've been watching all the other knitting podcasts where they've been showcasing all of the other organizers that Yazzii has, you know that the quality is top notch. You cannot go wrong. This bag is the one bag that you need for the rest of your quilt life. This is it. This is it. You can take this to a workshop. You can give a workshop. You can use this as your group quilt bag. It will house everything for your group quilt. You can pass this around. It's not just for knitters. Let me show you the inside. As usual, if you're familiar with the Yazzii products, they are made with lots of compartments, lots of really sturdy zippers, very well sewn. And the one comment that I did get from both my guilds, they were impressed beyond anything with the workmanship. And you know, as quilters, we're pretty nitpicky about that. The workmanship here is just top notch. Unbelievable. So here you've got 2 pages. Wow. Actually built-in compartments for all of your stuff. And you can see more on Yazzii's website. You have another compartment here. And what, in addition to her product launch, she is got her block storage. So here you've got your place to put all your blocks with a see-through pocket to put it in. So that comes with this bag as part of her introduction in Houston. So this can only get better. When you go to our website, you'll see that there are a whole bunch of other pockets and organizers that will complement and fit into this particular organizer. You're going to need this. What I did was, out on the back of my gallery, I have laid out some of the items that I bring when I give a workshop or I attend a workshop or just go to my quilt guild. So what's involved is usually you have your sewing machine on wheels and minimum 2 extra bags on top of the purse that you're carrying along. I think that this is the one bag that's going to replace the 2 extra bags, which is my minimum. Remember, I could have more than 2 bags. And yeah, let me show you what we need as a quilter. So as a quilter, depending on what you're doing, you might be giving a workshop on patchwork or applique. So definitely you're going to need your little design wall. That fits in nicely. What about when you're doing hand applique or hand quilting? You could carry your entire quilt and hand quilt at your quilt guild meetings, because this 14-inch hoop fits in perfectly, and you still have enough room to put your quilt and all of your other notions and supplies. I have my revolver mat. This is the small size, but I think the next size, I don't know if it's small, it's the 12-inch size. The next size up will fit perfectly inside the organizer bag. We need our rulers. 12.5-inch for sure will fit. But guess what? The 15-inch square ruler fits as well. Now, granted, this is not a popular ruler, but when you need the 15-inch, just know that it fits perfectly. In addition, you're going to get excited. This fits inside the bag with all of your other notions. I'm not going to mention what it is, but as a quilter, you know this is exciting. You don't have to take it out of the box. It fits in on a diagonal. You're going to need your cutting mat. I have the Quilters Cut and Press. I think it's a June Taylor product. Well, it comes in a little square size, and that size fits perfectly inside this organizer. So Yazzii's team has thought of everything with this amazing organizer. So meet Yazzii at her booth in Houston at the end of October. Her booth number is 919. Mention coupon code QuiltMoxie. Guess what? She has given further promotional discounts, which I will list in the show notes that accompany today's podcast. So it's not just for quilters. Look what I've got here. Yes, if you're a scrapbooker, it's perfect. This organizer, I think, is great for scrapbookers. It's great for embroiderers, beaders, knitters. What about your sock yarn blanket? Wouldn't that be a wonderful place to keep all your sock yarn and your blanket safe while you're working on it? Or even if you're in a knitting guild, I don't belong to a knitting guild, but I would think that it would be great if you've got blocks that you're working on and you want to pass the entire project around to the different members. This is really a wonderful way to do this. Create a makeshift design wall out of this must-have organizer. All your fabrics will stick perfectly because it's made out of fabric and hand quilted on a domestic sewing machine by Yazzii's team. Well, there is more. In addition to the promo code Quilt Moxie, which will give you a discount for both retail and wholesale orders. Yazzii has generously offered 5 of her organizer bags as part of a contest. So the first contest will end November 15th, and we're going to ask you to put your comments about what you saw here today with her awesome new product. And just like Joyce of Aussie Yarning, she basically wants to have some feedback on what you think about this bag and how you can use it, what you like about it, etc. And any suggestions that you might have for a future addition to this organizer. So go to our Moxie podcast Ravelry group and put your comment, and you will get another chance to win one of these gorgeous Yazzii bags by November 15th. Next time on the podcast, I will show you some of the other organizers that Yazzii so generously sent to me. And now let's talk about my first socks, the new Craftsy class by Lucy Neatby. I didn't think I was going to sign up for my first socks by Lucy Neatby because, after all, this podcast started after I learned how to knit socks using DPNs in Berlin with my aunt Waltraud. Well, guess what? I did succumb. I did sign up. Totally no regrets. In fact, I'm going to suggest to you, if you are a veteran, even if you are a veteran sock knitter, this class you're going to love. Lucy Neatby, first of all, you can watch her and listen to her read a phone book. She is just so engaging. It doesn't really, there's something special about the way she presents a topic. And my first socks is a class that everybody needs. And it's true, if this is your first sock class, you will become a lifelong sock knitter. So there should be a warning attached to her class. I'm going to show you the pair of socks that I knit. So here they are. And what I'd like to say about this class, I took the Toe Up class with Donna Drukunas last year, which was a lot of fun as well. Lucy does this class top down, and she also used the demonstration of the class is mostly done using DPNs. What I like about the class is that she has you use the thick wool, the thick, comfy sock wool. So it means that if this is your first pair of socks, I believe that there are less than 50 stitches on this sock because of the thickness of the wool, and she shows you all of the different steps. What I did do was I created my own cuff, and my own moccasin toe is how I interpreted her sock knitting. And the heel, by the way, I did this as an afterthought gusset heel. I do have a tutorial coming up in another podcast, so look for that. I was able to knit this top down, insert some waste yarn, and then later on insert my gusset heel. And it was the perfect pattern to do that with. Now, you're going to say, well, you just changed the entire sock pattern. How can this be? What value is it if you're changing everything, you're knitting it to your liking? Lucy Neatby has a very cool technique for grafting. And if you just get this class for that technique alone, you will love it. In fact, that is how I ended up, and I'm going to show this later on in the podcast, grafting my brioche cowl. So check out her chimney technique for grafting. If you're scared of doing Kitchener or grafting, of course, there is a free grafting class from Craftsy that you can check out as well by Anne Hansen. You will love Lucy Neatby's chimney technique. The other thing that I learned from Lucy is she does her SSK different. And I like the way she does it. So I got that out of it. She also, on the bottom of the heel, she reinforces it, which I thought was very cool. I got that out of the class. And yeah, I got so many different knitting tips and techniques from this wonderful class, which I believe it's a very basic class. It's not very long, but you get so much out of it, even if you've been knitting socks forever and ever. So check it out. And also check out my afterthought gusset heel, which I'll show in another podcast. You can see the difference between this heel. Here, I'll show you this side. You can see here I have a decorative braid, and this is the heel that I did in the demo, which is different here as well. The Op Art Socks Knit Along began January 1st. Now, this knit along is basically in conjunction with the Op Art Socks book by Stephanie van der Linden. And Stephanie van der Linden was basically the first book or reference that I had from Germany when I learned how to do my first pair of DPN socks with Anne Waltraud, because Uncle Klaus decided he was going to get that book for us. So Anne Waltraud has the actual book in Germany, and I took home a DVD, and it was Stephanie van der Linden demonstrating how to knit socks. So of course I have followed this lady's genius with every book that she comes out with. And this book is jam-packed with amazing socks. I'm going to insert a little video of all of the socks that I knit as part of this knit along so far. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. this knit along is going to end next September, and I hope to be able to show you the next 12 pairs of socks that I'm going to be knitting next September. All that to say, as part of the knit along, when I joined this knit along, it was just a lot of fun. And a lot of people out there are knitting these socks, and you can knit them as well. It's a very generous group. The knit along is really well designed. In fact, the lady Alice has given me permission to use her knit along structure that she used, and that's what I did for our Easy Breezy Brioche knit along, which I'll talk to you in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I hope that you guys take a look on the Ravelry threads and check out the Op Art Socks knit along. There are lots of socks still to knit, a lot of fun. And you learn so much from all of your fellow knitters. So come and join us there. And from all of the parade of socks that you've seen, I'd like to talk about 2 pairs in particular. The first one is the Albers socks, and this is my answer to our sock yarn blanket. Now, when you look at the Albers socks on Ravelry, you can see the actual pattern by Stephanie van der Linden. They are modular socks, and they're done in 2 colors. But guess what? Mine were the sock yarn equivalent. Basically, all of these modules were done with sock yarn scraps. And I happen to think they match, even though nothing really matches on them. So if you've got a lot of sock yarn, you might want to consider doing these socks, modular socks, and have yourself a pair of scrap yarn socks. And what's exciting about my Albers socks is that was the first time I actually won a skein of yarn from Invictus Yarn as part of the sponsors. The knit along has quite a few sponsors, and I chose a yarn that I got from Sue of Invictus Yarns, and I had one huge regret when I received it in the mail, and that regret was that I didn't order more yarn. Her yarn is just gorgeous. And I had planned to wait to use that skein of yarn in another sock project further on down the line, but I couldn't wait, so I used it right away, immediately. The next sock that we could cast on, I used that skein of yarn. Then there was a tragedy that happened, and that was with the Alhambra socks. And I'm going to show you my Alhambra socks that you've already seen. Here they are. Here's one. And here's the other. And a tragedy occurred. I used the Alhambra socks by using this gorgeous yarn by Regia that I adore. See another one over there, because I love this fluorescent Fluoromania color. I just love it. In fact, the one I'm holding here came from Germany. My mom had to engage Uncle Erwin to get this yarn for me from Germany. And I had one actually that I found here in Canada. And I combined it with my mom's prehistoric white Regia yarn and knitted it up. And what happened was that as soon as I blocked the socks, the soak that I used, the water turned hot pink, and I freaked out. I rushed to get my color catcher, something to take the pink out of the white, and you'll see by the photos that I'm going to put up here that most of it came out right away. What you're looking at in this photo is a very damp sock after I put the color catcher to pull out the pink. And then I had let it dry under a fan. And the following day, when I went to check on it, it had turned pink. So all of this white, even though I had rescued the color, had turned pink. And the former vibrant colors of this yarn were overdyed by the pink. And I was just devastated. I couldn't believe it because you probably recognize most of the yarn back here in our 2-in-1 block storage organizer. Most of them here are Regia yarn. I'm a Regia yarn user. And they have a 10-year guarantee on their products. And I was just stunned that this could possibly happen. So I did go on the website and I contacted the Regia representative and I told her what happened to our socks. And in the meantime, I also scoured Ravelry. And to my surprise, I was not the only one that was having this problem with some of the Floromania sock yarn. However, the lady, the representative, told me that I was the first one to sort of mention it to them. And true to their word, they insisted on replacing the yarn. And I'm going to show you the yarn that I did get from Regia. I ended up choosing 3 of these stripe yarns, and they're the thick yarn. I didn't realize that I had the thick yarn. So there are 3 replacements for the 3 balls that I have. But you know, if you're like me, this is the color you really love. So I continued speaking with her and I said, well, there's got to be something we can do to rescue these socks or use this yarn, etc. So she did give me some tips and tricks on what to do with the yarn so that we can sort of set the dye. And I did everything she suggested. And you can even see on the cotton tie that's attached here that the dye is embedded in the cotton. So for some reason, we couldn't set the dye. All right, having said that, this sock, the one that has this problem, this one has not been blocked yet. This one, she told me that I'm going to have to send this to our Canadian Regia contact, which I have, and they're going to send it to Germany for further analysis. So odds are I will not have these socks back, or this sock, at least this sock, the one that's damaged, back. So I'm going to keep you guys posted to let you know what happens. And maybe they're going to come back to me and let me know what we can do so that we can actually use this yarn or how we can use it. More than likely, the black one will not have that issue with the dye color, but this white one, we'll see if they can do anything to rescue it and let me know what I can do with this yarn to use it, because that's the color I really, really love. So stay tuned and we'll keep you posted on that. But then, guess what happened? I was one of the lucky winners of a yarn skein of my choice from All Over Yarn, one of the sponsors for the Alhambra knit along. So this fraternal pair of socks, which are going to Germany, actually, I won a free skein of yarn from All Over Yarn, which I just got in the mail. How exciting. Now this time I learned my lesson and I ordered 2 other skeins. right away. I was not going to make the mistake like I did with Invictus yarns and have regrets. So here are the 2 other skeins that I have ordered to go with this yarn. And yeah, so we're growing our sock yarn stash. And talking about growing our sock yarn stash, if you'll look again in our 2-in-1 craft organizer, here are some of the skeins that I ended up purchasing since I began sock knitting. And most of them were as a result of a day trip with my hubby to some of the yarn shops here in our local community. The sock yarn that I got from Germany was in industrial quantities. Uncle Erwin had to get them through my mom, were these 3 yarns. This one is because I saw it on the Homespun House by Molly podcast. She was knitting this for her grandma, and I absolutely have to have this color of yarn by Regia, of course. And this, we don't even have to say anything. I needed those colors. And of course this, because this is the yarn for the cover socks in the Op Art Socks knit along. So I'm going to show you some of the other yarns. Most of these yarns that my hubby has chosen from our local yarn shops were Regia sock yarn. But there is one sock yarn that I wanted to show you, and it's the Lang Yawol silk sock yarn. And it comes with, look at this. They have a reinforcement, I guess a nylon, that you would knit for the toes and the heel that matches the sock yarn. Isn't that cool? I thought that was very, very cool. So let's talk about our Easy Breezy Brioche knit along. We've come to just about the end of our Easy Breezy Brioche knit along, and I'm so happy I did it during the summer. I had the time to concentrate on just brioche, and I'm pretty convinced now that I can brioche, or I have a really, really good base for brioche. And the last project I was doing was the Alex cowl, where I had dyed up some of my mom's alpaca pink into a purple so that I could have the 2-color brioche. And this cowl, I was hoping that it was going to go twice around my neck, and but unfortunately I ran out of purple, so that meant to me that my cowl was complete. So it's a little bit bigger than I would have liked as a cowl, and a little bit smaller than a 2-wrap cowl. But what is cool about this cowl is that I had signed up for my first socks by Lucy Neatby, and I used her chimney technique because I wanted to be able to graft brioche. Now let me see if I can find where I did it. Okay, I did find out. So let me show you the location on my cowl where I did the grafting. So here, I'm not sure if it shows up, but you should be able to see a little bit of where I grafted using Lucy Neatby's chimney technique. And I think this grafting was pretty good. I think the next time I do another graft in brioche, it'll just get better because you can actually see a bit of it on the other side, which I didn't focus on when I was doing the grafting. So my next challenge will be to be able to graft it seamlessly on both sides. Let me put it on so you can see what it looks like on. It really feels nice, the alpaca wool. I love the design. I think I'm so glad that I ended up doing the Easy Breezy Brioche knit along based on the Op Art sock knit along structure, which Alice generously let me use. And I'd like to thank all of my other brioche knit along participants thank you so much for helping me get through all of the brioche projects for the brioche classes on Craftsy. It was a lot of fun to do it. And we're going to be ending our knit along the end of September. And our last prize knitting project bag and matching zippered pouch will go out to the winner of the Alex scarf and brioche cowl projects. I'm going to post a picture of Iryna. Iryna was the winner of the knitting project bag that I had sewn up for our second of 3 knit-alongs for the brioche knit-along. And she was so delighted with her brioche bag that she sent me some photos, and I'll post them up here so that you can see her with her new knitting bag, and I'm so excited that she's making good use of it. She's Christmas knitting. Are you nervous? Christmas knitting already. So that is all I have for our knit-along. Now I'd like to share with you a demo that I put together for the CroCUS cast-on, and I'm giving it a name because it is a crochet cast-on, and that cast-on is what I use to actually knit up the Lucy Neatby socks. Let me just show you. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick it up, but so the cast-on looks like this, and it's ultra stretchy. So it is CroCUS, crochet, cast-on, ultra. Enjoy. How about using your crochet hook and knitting needles to cast on with CroCUS, which is a crochet cast on ultra stretchy. You're going to need your crochet hook and your knitting needles. Here is the CroCUS cast on, again here, and then we're going to cast off with a crochet cast off here. So let's get started. So you're going to start with a slip knot on your knitting needle and your crochet hook. And what we're doing is we're going to use our crochet hook like a knitting needle. So the first stitch is through the slip knot with your crochet hook in your right hand, and you're going to pull up a loop. And now let's start our CroCUS. We're going to start with our crochet hook by going behind the knitting needle and the first stitch, pulling up a loop, and then we're going to go on the right side behind the knitting needle, pulling up a loop, and now you have 3 loops on your crochet hook. Now you're going to pull through all 3 loops with your crochet hook. Bring your yarn behind. Your next stitch is going to start like every other CroCUS stitch, which is between the 2 last stitches. You're going to pull up behind a loop, then you're going to go on the right side behind your knitting needle and pull up a loop, and again we're just going to pull through all 3 loops. Bring your yarn behind your knitting needle, pull up a loop on the left side, go behind on the right side, bring up a loop. Now you have 3 stitches, 3 loops on your crochet hook, and you're going to pull the working yarn through all 3 loops. Again, so you're going to bring your yarn behind your knitting needle, take your crochet hook, between the last two stitches, pull up a loop from behind the left side of your knitting needle, bring your crochet hook behind the right side of your knitting needle. Now you have 3 loops on your crochet hook. You're going to pull your working yarn through all 3 loops. Bring your yarn behind for the next stitch. So here we go. And you can sort of get a little rhythm going. Okay, so when we get to our last stitch, you're going to pull up your yarn from behind, and on the right side, just like normal, you have 3 stitches on your loop, and you're going to pull just like before. The difference is now you've ended with this loop on your crochet hook. So the way I like to do it is I bring my yarn behind as if doing the next stitch, and what I'm going to do is place the last stitch that we created onto the crochet hook. I remove it, so now I have 2 stitches on the crochet hook, and I'm just going to pull this stitch through the last one and place it back onto our knitting needle. So our CroCUS cast on is complete. You can see the nice braid that it creates here, and it is ultra stretchy. And when I turn it, you can see the nice loops, the crochet loops that it creates on the bottom. And then when you look on the back of it, it almost looks like purl stitches. Okay, so let's do our first row of knitting. You can either do through the back loop, which I did on this example here. This is the knitting on the back loop. Or regular knit stitches, which creates a twisted stitch, which is on this example. Now this example, let me just show you the example, is done in the round. And here's the join. And when I turn it inside out, let's take a look. You can see how I joined. It is almost seamless. I've left the working yarns that need to be buried for you to see where I ended. So I'm going to knit through the back loop a couple of rows before we do our crochet cast off. Here's our first row, and I'm going to purl back. And some of you know that I like to purl backwards, so I don't actually turn my work, but I just basically throw my yarn to purl back the row. And then we're going to cast off. Now we're ready to cast off. Again, we're going to use our crochet hook like a knitting needle. So grab your crochet hook, and the first stitch starts with the yarn over. I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to pull it right through the yarn over, and then pull off that first stitch. So now it continues. We yarn over, pull up a loop, and you're going to pull it right through the 2 loops that are on your crochet hook and pull off your stitch. Again, a yarn over. Now you have 2 loops on your crochet hook. Pull up a loop and pull it right through those 2 loops. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and right through the 2 that are on your crochet hook. Yarn over, using your crochet hook like a knitting needle, you pull up a loop and you pull it through the 2 loops on your crochet hook. Remove your loop from your knitting needle. Yarn over, pull up a loop and through the 2 loops. And your last stitch, you're going to pull it up, pull it through 2 loops, remove your knitting needle, and you're just going to give yourself a little bit of slack. And this is where we take our scissor and we're just going to cut and that that finishes off your sample. So here, let's take a look at the CroCUS cast on here and the crochet cast off. So on the cast off, you'll see a nice braid on the front and on the top. And on the back, you see just the purl stitches. And here is your CroCUS cast on back, which looks very nice with the purl bumps. On the sock, you're going to notice that I used the CroCUS cast on as well. Very stretchy. And it's with a rib, so you can see that you can use this cast on for a rib on a sock. Thank you for joining me here today. I'd like to invite you to sign up to receive your podcast by email and get an extra chance of winning an awesome Yazzii bag. Go and meet Yazzii in Houston if you're there, booth 919. And look out for our sock tutorial that is an afterthought gusset heel sock tutorial. And join me next time. Bye for now. À la prochaine.